Seth, the Egyptian god of chaos, disaster and storms, feared by gods, respected by men, an ally of Ra and savior of Earth. Seth is the subject of numerous stories, ideas, and mythologies. He is one of the earliest known Egyptian gods, being one of the first 5 children of Geb, the Egyptian god of the earth, and Nut, the Egyptian goddess of the sky. Seth means strength, but in ancient Egyptian it means chaos, evil, or destruction. He inherited the red infertile desert that stretches beyond Egypt's borders and rules over foreign affairs. He was one of the most important deities in ancient Egypt because he was once responsible for confusing ancient Egyptian enemies, assisting them in winning wars and expanding their territory. They would also believe in and worship Seth in the hopes that he would guide their deceased relatives through the afterlife. Seth is said to be able to take the form of various animals, but his most common is that of the Shah, also known as the Set animal. Like most Egyptian gods, Seth is depicted as having a human body, with the head of this creature that is yet to be identified. He has a long tail that sometimes points upwards, as well as long square-shaped ears and a long snout on his curved head. Seth has the ability to transform into dangerous animals and shapeshift, and he is usually associated with the colors black or red. The ancient Egyptians regarded Seth as a neutral god, until he did something that brought chaos and havoc to the land. Egypt was divided into 2 parts, the red drought land assigned to Seth and the black fertile lands assigned to Osiris, Seth's elder brother who was prosperous and did his best to rule Egypt. The citizens of ancient Egypt had peace and equality, but Seth was dissatisfied with Osiris's ability to keep the peace. He adored chaos and violence, but there was no way for disorder to reign in Egypt with Osiris around. His jealousy and rage towards Osiris increased when his wife Nephthys became attracted to Osiris, disguised herself as Isis, seduced him, and bore a child named Anubis. Seth was not only devastated but also enraged, and he plotted to murder his own brother. Seth had invited everyone, including Osiris, to join him in a feast of the gods, but they had no idea he had devised a plan to finally end his brother's reign and life. Seth made a magnificent chest that had been tailored to the exact measurements of Osiris. During the celebration, he urged that anyone who could fit into the most beautifully made chest would take it home. No one could fit in except for, of course, Osiris, who is immediately sealed into the casket by Seth and thrown into the Nile River. The casket containing the body of Osiris floated out of the Nile and into the sea, eventually landing on the shore of Byblos in Phoenicia, where a tamarisk tree outgrew the casket and encased it within its trunk. This tree would eventually become a central pillar in the palace of the king of Byblos, but no one knew it housed the casket of the great Egyptian ruler Osiris. When Seth ascended to the throne, Egypt descended into anarchy, violence, and chaos. Osiris and Isis's efforts to keep Egypt a peaceful, harmonious, and orderly kingdom were futile because everyone was subject to the rule of the god of chaos. Isis was able to recover a beloved husband's body from the king and queen of Byblos, but Seth learned that Osiris had been found and proceeded to take the body, shattered it into pieces, and flung the pieces across Egypt and the Nile. Isis was devastated when she discovered what Seth had done, but she refused to give up. With the help of Anubis, the god of the dead, and embalming, Isis successfully recovered all of the lost parts of Osiris except his penis, which had been eaten by a creature in the Nile River. According to some myths, Seth dismembered Osiris in order to put an end to any attempts to bring an heir to the throne. After resurrecting her husband, he transformed into a falcon and with the use of his claws injected his sperm into the body of Isis. Since he could not rule the living with an incomplete body, he went to the underworld to become Lord of the Dead and Judge of Souls. Isis became pregnant and gave birth to Horus the Young, Seth's nemesis. They then competed in a series of contests to determine who would become king. The contendings of Horus and Seth were recorded differently in various mythologies. One holds that Seth was planning to murder Horus when he was a boy, but Isis was quick enough to hide his son in the Nile swamp. When Horus's mother was away, Seth sent a venomous snake to kill him. Isis returned to their hideout, only to discover that Horus had been severely injured. She sobbed uncontrollably until Thoth, the Egyptian god of medicine and healing, arrived to save the young god. When Horus was old enough, he emerged from hiding and challenged his uncle Seth. They competed in a series of contests, with the Enneads deciding who would rule Egypt after the contest between uncle and nephew. This contest lasted for 80 years while the people suffered under Seth's rule. The Enneads, a council of 9 powerful gods, unanimously agreed that Horus was the rightful heir to the throne. They made this decision not because he was Osiris's son, but because Horus defeated Seth in every single contest set up to determine Egypt's rightful ruler. Although Horus won the contest and the Enneads' favor, Ra, the sun god, still believed that Seth should rule Egypt. His presence for Seth was later reversed when Isis took an action that caused Seth to bring about his own demise. Isis morphed into a young woman and sat at the gates of Seth's palace, waiting for him to arrive so she could carry out her plans. When she realized Seth was approaching, she began to cry bitterly, so loudly that she immediately drew Seth's attention. He asked her what was wrong, and she told him about her husband's own brother murdering him and forcibly taking his land, and how she and her son had been evicted from their inheritance. Seth was moved by her story and became enraged, promising to apprehend this evil man and return the land to her and her son. Isis smiled, revealing her true self as the Enneads listened. Ra was so convicted that Seth deserved nothing good. Seth was exiled from the Nile Valley to the desert wasteland. According to some mythologies, the Enneads couldn't decide who would rule even after the 80-year-long contest, so they summoned Neith for advice because she was a wise goddess. Neith bestowed the throne on Horus, whom she considered the rightful heir. Egypt's peace and order had been restored, and life had returned to normal. There is an ancient Egyptian myth that suggests Seth saved Ra, the sun god. Every night, Apophis was set to hypnotize Ra and his entourage as they sailed with him. Apophis was unable to hypnotize Seth because he can resist the serpent's lethal stare, allowing him to defeat Apophis. During Egypt's early dynastic period, Seth was regarded as a hero rather than the people's nemesis. They even prayed to him for help and guidance. After Seth was expelled from the Nile Valley, he was regarded as a villain with whom no one wanted to associate. Seth is completely portrayed as an evil god in the Osiris myth because he murdered his brother, attempted to destroy Horus, and nearly destroyed Egypt. In Christianity, Seth is said to be another form of the devil and may be the one who tempted Jesus in the desert. He was despised and no longer worshipped by mortals since the modern Egyptian era. Despite the fact that people despise Seth, some pharaohs such as Ramesses II were named after him during the 19th dynasty. Seth fathered Anubis, and according to some myths, he had an affair with the foreign goddesses Astarte and Anat. His other offsprings are Wepoet, Serket, Sobek, and Maga. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment, and until next time, bye.